What's happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Pete and Joe and the July Hiatus Adventures, presented by the OBR Streaming Network. Special shout out to the OBR and OBR.com. Guys, before we get into it, check out the OBR. This is a bit of a lull in the off season, right? But we got training camp around the corner. I know Jack Duffin's got some stuff on the Deshaun Watson contract coming that people are going to want to look into. Pete Smith's always cranking out great stuff. So be sure to check out OBR.com. Become an insider. Pete Smith, my man, how are you, sir? How are you doing? And how was your 4th of July?
4th of July was good. Everything else is fine. Waiting for the madness to start. Still got a couple weeks, but we'll get there. How about you?
Oh, can't complain. Can't complain. Went out of town, saw family this weekend for the 4th, and that was absolutely wonderful. No complaints there. Other than that, yeah, status quo. Can't wait for training camp to kick off. The United States had a hell of a run in the World Cup, which ultimately fell short last night. We got LeBron James watch going on, even at age 41. He's got the NBA world ripped at all this stuff. Possibly coming to the Cavaliers. You hear different things every other day almost, and I think the Guardians just took the lead off of Reese Hoskins' home run. That's always good stuff.
Yeah, the World Cup's job is to do one thing. It fills a gaping hole that exists from June to July in the sports calendar. Once every 4 years. It's glorious. The U.S. team's finish was certainly disappointing. I'm not going to get up on some soapbox and talk about what's going to fix U.S. soccer. I will see what they do in 3 years. I will be happy if they do well. I'm rooting for them. Ultimately, still trying to recapture the sweet glory that was the Brian McBride-led team that beat Portugal in what was that, 2006 at this point or something like that? I don't know. So I think the World Cup's great for what it is.
Phenomenal, really. Yeah.
It's the one, as far as team sports go, it's the most, I guess I'd say, democratic sort of sports tournament. FIFA is corrupt as hell. There are all kinds of problems there. But in terms of like a team-based sport, international competition, this is about, even though only 8 countries have actually won this thing, it feels more wide open than everything else. Whereas, the Winter Olympics with hockey was great. But you're still sitting there going, there's about 5 teams that can win this. Or let's say basketball, it's like 3 teams. So with this, you get more teams that are sort of in on the action. Obviously, the craziness with the U.S. team, and then Egypt's Falcons like choke job, or Egypt's alleging corruption on that, but whatever. So yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, amen to that. I found it fascinating how so many people were up in arms about how the United States pissed away that game when Belgium's better. Belgium's just a better team. Like it's crazy to me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about the Browns. We're here to talk about a little bit of football. So Pete, I mean, this is the depths of it. This is as lullish as this lull is going to get. So I'm thinking a good way to kick this off, I say we go through position by position and we predict this 53-man roster. We go through position group by position group, and we talk about guys that could make an impact, could rise, could fall, all that good stuff. We're gonna dive into quarterback. Quarterback seems simple, right? Because Deshaun Watson can't be moved.
Right.
Dylan Gabriel isn't, according to everything that we're hearing and everything that's been said, it's a 2-man race for the quarterback position. Dylan's not a part of it. And then we've got Taylon Green, who is potentially going to be the 3rd quarterback, emergency quarterback, and, kind of a, I don't know, wildcat quarterback, so to speak. I hope, like a limited package type player.
I hope he's able to get there.
Well, let's talk about it right now. I think we would both agree that surface level, we're looking at it, and Dylan Gabriel looks like he's the odd man out. But what can save his spot with the Cleveland Browns?
Well, I mean, the first thing would be an injury. Look, the Browns are, I know everybody's sort of like treating Dylan Gabriel as an afterthought, and it's a matter of how fast can they get rid of him. There's not a whole lot of incentive for them to do that.
Yeah.
Kid gets better, great. Like, even if you're going to try to trade him at some point, it benefits you. You
let him build his value back up a little bit.
Right. Not only that, obviously somebody else could get hurt, which is what happened last year with Aiden O'Connell goes down with the injury. The Browns flip Kenny Pickett over there for a pick, which is great. So look, you've got a number of questionable quarterback situations across the league. Dylan Gabriel enjoys a good reputation as sort of a person, a worker, all these elements that like coaches like. I mean, I know fans don't really like Dylan Gabriel because they look at the size and all this other stuff, and some people will say, well, he's not big and whatever. Coaches like guys like Dylan Gabriel because they just work hard, they say all the right stuff, and they are really smart and they're valuable within a locker room. So that and a quarterback room. So that could make him useful. Obviously, I agree that I think it's a matter of time before it's going to happen. I'll be curious to see if they wait until sort of like August, late August, to see how things shake out. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's still where I expect this thing to go. I think Shedeur Sanders is ultimately going to win the job. I could be wrong. And ultimately, it may be that both these guys are going to play a whole bunch, and it doesn't really matter who starts first. But I still think Shedeur Sanders is ultimately going to be, or at least from what I'm looking at, going to end up being the better option. Deshaun Watson, and then obviously Taylor Green has to prove viable enough to be active on game days, which is not a given. That's a roster spot. You get 46 active on game day. He's got to be proved that he's so good and capable that they could theoretically use him in enough situations where it's going to validate that choice. So I would love to get him there because 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 1st and 10, 1st and 5.
Big body. Yeah.
Running, doing, basically doing exactly what the Browns did last year with Quinshon Judkins in a direct snap scenario and just do it Taylor Green. And now he's meshing with Judkins. He can make a quick pass, whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a much more viable threat to do something.
There's just way more things you can do. So, I mean, and if you are the Browns and you are looking at this thing sort of as and I don't expect this would necessarily happen right out of the gate, though. You never know. If they sit there and go, man, we don't really have a quarterback, so we're just going to keep all these guys active because we're going to do as much as we can to keep teams off balance and use this thing every so often as a way to try to keep them honest and create some opportunities.
The problem with that, Pete, is the roster's too good. They have too much talent on the roster to keep a 4th quarterback. Like they probably could have gotten away with it last year, but after 2 drafts that solid and the young talent they already had in place, I mean, it's hard to justify. It's hard to justify a 3rd quarterback if they didn't, alter the rules a couple years ago. Yep. So what I find fascinating about Taylor Green is that we're all head over heels about the measurables, right? Just the talent is oozing out of this kid's ears. But is there a chance that he's far enough away at quarterback that he plays himself off the roster and Dylan Gabriel keeps that position? Or do you think he's that good and they understand where he's at in his development that he's safe no matter what?
I suspect it would be easier to get Dylan Gabriel on the practice squad than it would be Taylor Green.
I would agree with that.
And it's just because you can do stuff with Taylor Green that gives you an advantage.
Yeah.
And if you cut him, somebody's going to claim him. Somebody's going to have a roster bad enough. Arizona could easily, Miami could grab him, whatever, and easily be like, screw it. We're going to take the shot and see if he's going to develop into the thing. We go and cut him later. Like they could wait till, week 8, cut him and then put him on the practice squad after everybody gets sort of settled. But there's a path for him to sort of be something, even if it's only this package player occasionally. That's useful. And if he can become a backup, even better. And if he can become more than that, then you're crushing it. You're loving life. So I just think that there's more potential there with Taylor Green. I think there's more that teams will be eager to grab with him. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that I feel confident that Dylan Gabriel will get to the practice squad, but if I'm choosing who's more likely to be available to the practice squad, it would probably be Gabriel. And who knows, he might not even want to sign with the Browns practice squad in that scenario. Yeah. Nevertheless, I think that's probably the better bet at this point.
Yeah, I would. You know, I would agree with you that the likelihood of him sticking around is probably slim to none, especially with what appears to be the coaching staff that preferred him a year ago is obviously out the door.
Right.
Besides, he's a West Coast kid
Do.
anyway. He's a warm weather kid anyway. You got Mike McDaniel, who was a huge fan of Miami last year and San Diego right now. That could, or LA, Jesus, that could easily, bring him on board. Pete, I got to call quick timeout. I have a 10-year-old daughter who has not closed my refrigerator, and I hear it beeping upstairs. I got to go do that, buddy. I'm going to be right back. Tell me, let's talk about Deshaun Watson, by the way. Let's talk about what he's realistically going to bring to the table as a starter at this point, because to me, I think the biggest impact he can have, knowing how he throws the ball lately, is going to be as a runner, is going to be as a dual threat guy. Pete, that dude's been made of paper mache the last few years. So how is that going to work? And I'll be right back.
Short answer, it's not, because he's going to eventually break. There's certainly an area where if he could sort of embrace the notion of being, running at the quarterback spot, sort of like Russell Wilson did, where Russell Wilson was incredibly obnoxious and that he would run and slide or get out of bounds in a position where defenders would be incredibly frustrated because they couldn't hit him. Great. I've never seen anything like that from Deshaun Watson. Never seen any judgment on his part that suggests he can do that. He more likely close his eyes and slam into something as hard as he can. Something will break on him, and he will ultimately end up on the injured list. It's just what I expect to happen. And then, that's just the rushing component. Yes, he has some mobility. Yes, that affords you some things they can do, some, power read and bash and different concepts they can utilize. But as a passer, he's just not very good. And maybe he will get slightly better in training camp, but for the guy who's supposed to be the 10-year veteran, he makes some of the worst decisions of any of the quarterbacks in these practices that we've seen so far, which is really problematic. And the flip side of that is he's not balancing it out by making a whole bunch of big plays. So it's the worst combination of things. So if you're worried about turnovers and him just throwing the ball to the other team, he may well do that, and then he won't create the explosive. So it's like the worst. It'd be like the worst elements of Jameis Winston, except he's got slightly more mobility and people hate him.
So I got to be honest with you. I feel like everybody's kind of getting worked up with this whole thing, and it's happened to me too. I mean, between Mary Kay championing Deshaun as the starter back in late March versus everything that's kind of shook out recently. I don't think he's a good player, Pete, and I don't think he's going to be good enough to win this job. I just don't see it happening. So it's I still get frustrated when I hear people talking about it, because I don't think it's possible. It's been 7 years. It's been legitimately 7 years since he was the impact player that we gave up all those picks for. And the thing I think that kills me the most is that when a player ages and he starts to lose a step or he starts to lose a little zip on his fastball, all those things, it's the mental side of the game that starts stepping up and kind of filling in those gaps and kind of, softening the blow of the diminishing skills, so to speak. Deshaun doesn't have that. He doesn't have that to fall back on. And he hasn't played enough to build on it, for Christ's sake. So it's I have super low expectations for what he's actually going to be able to do. And truth be told, if we get through however many weeks of training camp and he and Shedeur are neck and neck, I mean, that's going to be pretty devastating, emotionally for me, that Shedeur can't separate from Deshaun. That's where I'm at right now. I flatly ignore the resume when it comes to Deshaun Watson because I've seen too much and it's been too long.
Perhaps I'm reading too much into it, but listening to him in press conference, it sounds like he knows it's over.
Yeah.
He's talking about, some of the stuff he's saying, changing his personality, fine, whatever. But he's like, I'm not thinking about going back to 2020.
Yep. I just want to play 17 games. Yep.
Yeah. Nothing he's saying is confident. Given how bad he's been, obviously people would crush him if he did say that. But it does sound, and again, this is why I preface this by saying maybe I'm reading too much into this because he knows how some of these things will probably come off. But to me, it sounds like he knows that it's not coming back. It's not going to get that much better. This is sort of it, and he's going to do what he can, and the chips are going to fall where they will. And then to me, that's why there are two pieces to this. One, I'm watching Deshaun Watson. If you watched Dan Campbell's Lions HBO Hard Knock stuff and his description of a certain drive, I'll shorthand it, WTF plays and bullshits to describe like he had three WTFs and two bullshits on one drive or whatever. Like there are way too many WTFs from Watson. Again, supposed to be the 10-year veteran, and to counteract, I see fewer from the guy he's competing against. And like last year, there were a whole lot of plays, particularly in games you're like, oh my God, what are you doing to Shedeur Sanders? Yeah. The Pittsburgh Steelers arm punt at the top of the list.
Yeah.
But in camp so far, and obviously we'll see what happens when pads come on. Obviously not going to get hit, but his line will. If he continues to like make reasonable decisions where you just either not turning over the ball, he doesn't do a whole lot of that, or not putting the ball in harm's way in a situation where you're like, what was he thinking? I think my contention is he's going to make it easier for this coaching staff to trust the younger quarterback, because so much of being able to default to the veterans, but like he knows his way around this thing. He knows what not to do. But when you watch practices, and obviously the media's only been to so many, but they often seem to go the same, have the similar through line. Shedeur Sanders seems to be a better distributor of the ball. He operates more like a point guard, which my contention would be, given what the Browns are going to have offensively with the amount of weapons they have, that's exactly what they need. Just don't get your playmakers and let them do stuff. And then on the flip side, don't put your defense and your team in bad situations. And it seems like Shedeur is doing better on those fronts. So I'm leaning into that and saying that hopefully, and I've said this all along, I think he's flirting with sort of taking another step, having that sort of epiphany. If he does it, I think this is going to be open and shut. But regardless, I just think the trends are in a fashion that make it very easy to go with him. And I get it from perhaps Todd Monken's standpoint, where you sit there and go, well, I really like the mobility element. If that's a tie, if it's a tie, I'm going to go with the guy who offers more of it. Fine. I guess I get it on that element. And then the other part of that is like, he's a big offensive guy, wants big plays, and maybe Shedeur isn't as wired to deliver those, whereas Sean
or push the ball downfield as much.
And I don't even know that he's not doing that. It's just there may be plays that Todd Monken just wants to be more aggressive with because that's who he is. But again, I think when you get down to the trustworthiness to this point, I would say the edge goes to Shedeur, and unless that changes dramatically, that's ultimately why I think he's going to win this job. Just distribute the ball, get to your playmakers. You've got all these weapons all of a sudden. Let them do the work and don't screw it up. Don't turn over the ball and give the ball, to the other team on your own 20-yard line. Yep. How many games have we talked about? I mean, Kevin Stefanski, like the blight on the end of his tenure was they like could not stop turning over the football, and like these press conferences, like this is all we talk about, and we're still doing it. Well, at some point, you have to just make a decision that says we're done. We're done turning over the ball. This guy doesn't turn over the football. Obviously, there's you don't want to get into the Dylan Gabriel zone where, he's not turning the football. He's also not doing anything else.
Yeah.
I'm not worried so much about with Shedeur at this point, and I want to see if he can start adding more playmaking ability in terms of how he's throwing the ball. I don't know that's going to develop in the way that we hope in terms of a long-term starter or anything, but I think it's at least going to be more palatable for this team this year.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about Shedeur in relation to the offensive staff that we have around him in terms of his support, the running backs, wide receivers and tight ends, he throws a great ball. He's a natural passer of the football. He throws a catchable ball. He hits guys in stride. Like, I feel like with our weapons and what they do well, it's a really nice fit with Shador. And if the line can keep him upright and his mental clock can stay on time and stay on task, I mean it's gonna be a fun offense to watch, man.
Yes, I mean there's some questions there. Offensive line is going to be one of them, in
Yeah.
the quarterback position. I mean, I hope we're not sitting here, in October going, man, these wide receivers and the weapons look really good. Why can't anyone get them the football? That's obviously the big fear you have. But yeah,
Yeah.
they've obviously the other part of this is if we run into a situation where none of these quarterbacks are the answer, which is probably the likeliest situation, that you set up the ecosystem that says we're going to get to 2027 and quarterbacks are going to be excited about what they see from this team and
Yep.
look forward to the idea of playing for the Cleveland Browns because they're set up for success.
Yeah, agree. I mean, that's that's the dream, and we've talked all along. If it comes to next year, you do need a quarterback. Absolutely, go out and double dip, get the best free agent vet option that you can get, and then in the draft, take your guy in the first round and just go from there. That way you at least have somebody in place. You don't have to throw the kid to the wolves if he's not quite ready. Um, and that's another thing too. I feel like this team is good enough that if you plugged a good quarterback onto this roster, people would take notice and this team would be dangerous. So I don't necessarily think that waiting for a rookie to, develop is the best thing for this team. I mean, obviously take a guy if he's there and go with it, but get a starter, get an established guy who knows how to play NFL football, knows how to run an NFL offense, play on time, all that stuff, man. I feel like we've been throwing band-aids at the position for, year after year, ever since Deshaun. So put an actual contract to a good veteran starter and go from there.
Right. And if you can do that, and obviously you don't over leverage yourself the way they did with Watson, you can let that guy allow the situation to play itself out, and maybe somebody falls in your lap and you just okay, if you have to, I'll take another quarterback. Great. As opposed to you don't address it, and then you are now forced to now overpay, over pursue, and do exactly, obviously it wouldn't be Watson this time, but basically follow the same blueprint where you are now forced into getting stupidly desperate and create a situation that where if that guy doesn't succeed, you are basically might as well quit at that point.
So Marcel, I'm just letting you know right now, we're both fans of Shador Sanders and what he represents, and I think he can play. But if you think he's proven anything at the NFL level, you're out of your mind. He had absolutely no help last year. He did not have a good situation at all. I believe he's going to win the job and he's going to start all year. It's on him, man. It's on him. If he can play the Browns out of a position to take one of those top guys, his destiny's in his hands, man. He's got to win the job and he's got to play well. I think he can do it. I like the guy. I've liked the guy for a long time, but I'm not ready to say, oh yeah, he's our guy. Let's start looking at defensive ends and tight ends and stuff like that. Quarterback is still going to be the number one thing on this team's mind until somebody takes that job.
Well, but, I mean, he needs to take multiple steps forward. Mm-hmm. It's unclear if that's going to happen. I have reason to believe it might.
He doesn't have the time. It's not fair to expect him to take these steps in this amount of time. That's why he has to win and at least push them out of position and hope that they just don't get a guy.
But the other part about that is the evidence suggests the Browns don't think he's the answer at this point. Now they're not burying him before he's dead. But one, they haven't named him the starter yet, which isn't the end of the world. I didn't expect them they would. I expect us to go to the joint practices. Mm-hmm. But if you thought Shador Sanders was the unquestioned starter, this was going to be your future, well, would you then still trade Myles Garrett? Maybe the situation was just so untenable that you would have done it anyway. But I think if you believed that Sanders was that good, you would have tried to sell that to Myles and maintained having this fantastic defense and let this kid sort of come in and, if he's even halfway, if he can get to the 16th best quarterback in the league, then we're talking about a potential playoff team. So the fact of the matter is, it doesn't seem like the Browns think that either, and that they didn't seem to think that based on how they approach the offseason. Now, obviously, they are happy with what they've seen from him in terms of his development in the offseason program coming, from starting at the end of last year, which is great. So to your point, it's on him. He's going to get his opportunity to prove that he can be that dude. And if he does it, great. Everybody's going to be talking about nothing but good things because the Browns are going to now have a quarterback and 2 first-round picks and a loaded draft class to just add more stuff and just add more players and just add talent and all these other pieces. And then you're suddenly talking about championship windows at that point. Now, so that's what's there for him if he can take advantage. I'm certainly hoping he's going to be the unquestioned starter at some point. Like I said, I think it will happen. I could be dead wrong. I would not want to be in Todd Monken's shoes if Deshaun Watson is the opening day starter, but hey, that's the decision he'd make. But beyond that, it's on Shore to prove that he can be that dude.
So, Pete, let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this the other day, and before we jump over to running backs. Now, say Deshaun is your opening day starter, right? Say he wins the job. Isn't that just going to be an absolute disaster from the standpoint that he's going to get booed off the field for every incompletion, every interception? I mean, it's part of the issue of why Colin Kaepernick wasn't in the league or why Tim Tebow wasn't in the league after a while. Guys with NFL ability to be backups, but they cast a shadow and they indirectly create controversy around them. And he's one of those polarizing guys. He's got an entire fan base. I mean, a lot of it is Shador and his likability, and a lot of it is the opposite for Watson, right? I would say 99.5% of the fan base is pulling for Shador. That's going to be a hostile environment if they try to trot him out week 1 as the starter. That will not be met well.
Just 2 road games. So Watson has to survive to week 3 before it even matters. But yeah, I mean, I don't, whether it's just fans aren't there or whatever, like I said, I think it's going to be ugly unless the Browns magically come back 2-0.
Yeah.
But no, I people are so beyond done with the Watson thing, and whether or not Sanders can do it, people are at least curious to see if it has viability to it. He's at least interesting.
Agreed with that. Pete, how about this one for you? John Smith. I really worry about the O-line. It appears they have only 2 possible above-average starters in Fano and Jenkins. Could any of the others take a big step forward?
Let's start here. Fano's got to prove he's anything. He's a rookie.
Yep.
And obviously the offensive line as a whole is a giant question mark because, we don't – if you were to have holdovers from last year, like let's say Joel Bitonio came back and played another year, you'd at least have some barometer based on Joel Bitonio, how the other guys are doing. You don't have that. It's a completely new unit. So they don't have pads on, shoulder pads on at least. So it's difficult to really get a feel for that. And the defense will prove certainly a challenging test, but we have nothing to compare it against.
Yeah.
So that is interesting in terms of trying to draw conclusions about it. But I think Fano will be fine. I'm very curious to see if the Browns can get Johnson to realize the vision they have for him, that they thought he was worth the investment. Titus Howard is unexciting, but he's a professional tackle. I'm not worried about that. As far as a pass protector, I think he's going to be. I'm hoping they're going to find a way to get more out of him on a run game because that's been sort of a non-factor with him, which is not great. Yeah. And then Elton Jenkins, again, he's got a track record. Just a question of where he's at. Is he at center or is he at right guard? Guard has obviously been better for him, but he's a professional center. And then obviously major questions at right guard. So, I mean, I think there's 5 questions on the offensive line. I think you're relatively safe thinking Titus Howard is at least going to be what he is, but how much is he going to be able to do better than that? And then everything else is sort of up in the air, including where Jenkins is going to end up, who's the center or right guard in that scenario. There's just a lot to sort of figure out.
Well, one thing that I look at with this line, Pete, I'm with you. I mean, Spencer Fano, he hasn't done anything yet. He hasn't even, put on the pads and had contact in training camp yet. There's still a long way to go with him. But I look at everybody on that line, whether it's Zion Johnson or Titus Howard or Elton Jenkins or Tevin Jenkins for that matter. We have a like I'm not worried about any of those guys. Like I think they can all play, right? I need them to stay healthy. My only thing is I think it's a high floor, maybe not a high floor, but it's a low ceiling on that line. There's not a lot of great players, right? But I feel like to your point, there's a lot of NFL caliber guys. So if Spencer Fano is as good as we hope he is, and he can play well and really lock down the left tackle spot, I mean, I think we're okay. Like, I don't look at any of those positions as an indirect weakness. The big question's right guard, which you noted, whether it's going to be Brailsford at center or Tevin Jenkins at guard or whatever they do to bounce Elton Jenkins to the other position. I mean, that's like these guys just got to stay healthy, but they can all play. That's the one thing that I feel good about is we've got decent depth with guys that can play. And it's just going to kind of raise the bar of the line. It's going to raise the floor. I don't think it's going to be a great line. I don't think they have a chance to be this quick. They're filling all 5 spots in 1 year. But these guys can play.
Well, I mean, I think it's very possible that it's going to be a work in progress through several weeks of the season.
Yeah.
In terms of them coming in and being effective. I mean, the biggest thing that they're going to have that the last year group did not was athleticism. Last year's group was so unathletic with guys who were just they're old and injuries have taken their toll, but it just made them incredibly predictable. And when the defense only knew they had a couple of cover a few things, they could be hyper aggressive, which put them a group that needed every advantage at a huge disadvantage. It caused them problems. There is a world where obviously these guys have to prove they can hold up at the point of attack and move guys off the ball. But just the ability to do more things may keep the defense a little bit more honest, which may help them in the long run and just give them a breather in terms of giving them hope in terms of the run game, staying on schedule, doing all those things that will give them sort of some help in terms of sort of down a distance, like it's 3rd and 5. You could theoretically run, whereas at 3rd and 13, they're pinning their ears back and coming, and you're in trouble. So they've got to be able to prove that they're good enough to keep themselves out of those super long down and distance things. They've got to stay out of 2nd and 11 in those plays where you're just like, okay, I guess we're throwing it 2 more times, and then we'll see what happens. That's not a way you want to have to operate your offense.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, I don't care who you are. Anybody playing, or not playing ahead of the chains is at a disadvantage and is going to have problems sustaining offense. All right, let's bump over to the running back position now. And this might be my favorite room on the entire roster. I'm a big fan of our running backs. I love the top 3, but we've got some interesting guys as depth pieces, right? TJ Harden, who you like, and Devon Booth. A couple undrafted guys. Harden went to SMU. Booth went to Mississippi State. And then Amani Marshall, who he was a rookie last year, no?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Those are the 3 depth guys, which I'm assuming one of those guys are going to be on the practice squad. I know that you kind of had a bit of a theory that TJ Harden could make an interesting fullback eventually.
We'll see.
What's that?
Doesn't appear to be going that direction, but we shall see.
Well, it's early. We still got time.
Just early.
Let's talk about Quinshawn, right? He's made a really, really, really nice recovery. And from everything that I've read and the clips that I've seen, he looks very explosive. You've seen him up close. Tell me how Q looks and what your thoughts are on him heading into training camp. Is he going to have training wheels on? Is he going to be all systems go? Are they going to put an orange jersey on him for non-contact, or is he going to get banged around a little bit?
Well, I mean, I don't anticipate that they're going to do anything to hold him back, given what he was able to do towards the end of OTAs and then minicamp. I mean, the biggest thing is if you didn't know he was hurt, you would have no idea he injured his foot and ankle like he did, because he looks no worse for wear at all. He looks perfectly healthy, explosive. He's gigantic already. He looks like the guy that was such an exciting player for this team last year. And ESPN recently came out with, I think Jeremy Fowler, uh, or some collection of people did a thing where they talked to front office people and they ranked the top tens in the league. And Quinshon Judkins did not make the top 10, nor should he. But a lot of people apparently thought he was the candidate who was likely to break out. And I like he just does a lot of things that he did a few things that surprised me relative to his college experience in terms of vision and those other things, but everything else, body control, speed, strength.
He looked really good.
Yeah, he's just tremendous player. I mean,
and he had no help. No help. Yeah.
And then, the piece that was sort of late addition in terms of his development curve last year was his ability to contribute in the passing game. And all of a sudden, the last few games before he got hurt, they had it rolling with him as a passing option out of the backfield. He's really, really good. And this was something that, like, you watch him in college, and particularly if you watch him against Notre Dame in the championship, you sat there and went, wow, because he took over that game in part because of his ability to catch the football. And people will sit there, oh, it was just a 10-yard pass or whatever. No, that was a really good play against a really good defense, and they had no answer for it. So you add all these weapons in terms of the receiving stuff. You already have Harold Finn, and you've got Jerry Jeudy. You're hoping that these, whether it's the combination of Bond, Concepcion, and Boston are all going to add components to this offense, and you still have this guy who's 225, every bit of 225, who gets the ball in the backfield.
With home run speed.
That you're going to have way more spacing for him. So I totally understand. And then, for reasons we've talked about, look, the people who think Quinshon Judkins wasn't good will sit there and go look at his yards per carry. It's like 3 yards per carry. And like, okay, fine. But he averaged 7.67 yard defenders in the box. Like 90% of his yards were after contact. Like, these are all indicators. The offense was terrible.
Yep.
And yet he still had a ton of yards after contact. He still, for like 5 games, his first 5 games, till defenses decided we're done with this, had like a 30-yard run in every game.
Yep.
And then added the receiving component. So I Todd Monken, basically the second he got here, was talking about how excited he was to be able to utilize this guy. And I have every reason to believe that this is going to be good. I'm hoping that the line play allow it, and quarterback play, those two components combined, allow Quinshon Judkins to have a fabulous year where we're like talking about a 1,200-yard back, and we're sitting here going, well, that problem is at least solved, and now it's just a question of, can we get the other piece? Because if that works itself out and Shedeur Sanders is the start, his life gets so much easier.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. And let's move right along. Let's move right along to the guy that has been, in my opinion, overlooked and was a little bit disappointing for some people last year. Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. I think him and Isaiah Bond are my 2 guys for the breakout guys for this offense. But I think he is the one that is like, that's unavoidable. I think the amount of space that he's going to see this year with the improvements around him, you're going to see a completely different player. I cannot wait to see what this kid can do with an offseason getting stronger and more comfortable. I'm super excited about Dylan Sampson. What do you think about Dylan Sampson?
I love him, and I'm excited to see that the coach Riz has jumped on the bandwagon. I'm seeing all these.
All right.
So I assume he's watching and sampling, and he couldn't have possibly come to that conclusion on his own. No, look, he's super fast. He's really fast. He catches the ball out of the backfield well, and he runs route. Like, he's not that boring in like terms of, he's going to swing out and catch the ball. Like, he does some stuff where you're sitting going, these are real routes. It's a shame that he missed so much of the OTAs with whatever minor injury, because then he finally came back from minicamp. You're like, wow.
Yep.
His speed is just phenomenal. And again, with what they've established on offense, where they have all these pace and space players on the outside, if you get caught up keeping track of all these guys, and Dylan Sampson catches the ball, he's going to have space to run. And we saw this when the Browns faced teams that weren't as good, like against the Raiders and I think the Dolphins and the Titans, where they just gave him the ball in space. He goes against the Raiders like 66 yards. It looks easy. or the Tennessee Titans where he had the fumble and came back from that and then made a whole bunch of plays where he just caught the ball and flew down the field. Like
Yep.
that's your second running back. Like this is the part where I've never understood the people who are like mad at this kid. I get it. He didn't have a great year, but I sit there and look at the offense and go, how could he? Not to mention he's young, but he seems smart. He seems to get it. Like he's never going to be a great blocker. I don't care because I just want him to go out and get the football and do that stuff because I genuinely think he's going to be really, really good. And whether or not he can be, Alvin Kamara or one of those type guys or reminiscent of Eric Metcalf and utilized in a offense that makes sense, in this world where you throw the ball to those guys instead of handing it off and running them up the middle every play. It just gives you so many opportunities to create. And that's what he is. He's a creator. And again, if you send all these guys down the field, Dylan Sampson's matched up against a linebacker, some jamoke trying to cover him out in the backfield. He's going to cook that guy. And all of a sudden he's got all kinds of space and just run.
Yep. Pete, this kid won the SEC Offensive Player of the Year at 20 years old.
And having watched that tape, richly deserved. That team was garbage. They had good decent blocking, but like all the receivers were gone that year, and the quarterback situation was good. It was him, and yeah, he was this is the thing. People are like, he's too small. Well, he was a workhorse for that year. There's just certain things that are difficult to ignore, and that production was just overwhelming. So I said at the time, I thought he was never going to be a factor for the Browns. I thought he was going to be one. I thought the Browns were going to wait until day 3. And then when they took Quinshon, I'm like, well, that's at the end of that because of course, Dylan Sampson's going to be gone before they'd ever pick him again. And then round 4, they picked the kid and it's just like, this is incredible value to me for a weapon that's just going to boost your offense. Like, I am so excited to see Dylan Sampson.
Well, that brings me to the final member of this trio that I'm fired up about. And we got to, he was a late addition, right? He was final cut downs. The Chargers let him go. We scooped him up. He scored a touchdown in week 1 and then basically sat the bench for the next 13 weeks. But Raheem Sanders from South Carolina, big bodied kid, right? About 6 foot 220, runs with some power. He's got some nice wiggle to him for his size. He's a nice receiver. I feel like Judkins is thunder, Sampson's lightning, and then we got the bulldozer behind him. I love this running back room.
Yeah, if you're asking me who's going to make the 53, I still think it's going to be Sanders.
Yeah.
Again, he's a power guy, and in OTAs you don't get to do that, and yet he was more than viable in terms of catching the ball in the backfield as a big back. He's perfectly viable, making some cuts and doing some impressive things like that. Like, I think he's a guy who did well in the offseason program. I think he will do better when you put pads on him because he's going to run people over. And if you get some of these teams that play like small linebackers and, or try to junk it up with safeties that don't have a ton of size, Raheem Sanders don't care. He's going to just and unlike Quinshon, who's more inclined to sort of play like a Nick Chubb style, where he may want to see it and hesitate and sort of see what's up. Raheem Sanders will just go, and he quick hitters, traps, and stuff like that. Like, he's really good on that stuff, and we saw it with absolute garbage offense the last couple games of the season. He just hit the hole hard and just went. And say what you will, there's always a place for that guy in the league. We see guys like that succeed all the time. Doesn't mean they're going to necessarily have 1 million yards, but like the kid from Rutgers on the Bears or whatever, that like you just hand him the ball and they just fight for yards. I mean, I think he has
Manun guy. He's got that weird
Kyle Manun guy who just an angry man who just runs through people. I think Raheem Sanders has some of those components to him.
Especially as a third back, right? As a third option. Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think he fits what they need. If they want to use a fullback, there could be situations where they just use him as the up back, turn and give him a quick hitter, and he will gain yardage. Like, there's a lot of things where I think Raheem Sanders makes sense in a world where this is obviously a big thing the line's going to have to prove itself on. But Todd Monken, as much as he wants to do wide zone and space things out, he wants to run power. And Raheem Sanders is built to run a power style game. I think he will thrive in that. I think he does a lot of the things people liked about Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
That style where, Kareem Hunt, where with him, it was arms and legs akimbo as he works his way, and every play you think he's going to either fumble or get killed because of how he runs. Like Raheem Sanders is a little bit more, may not be as like creative, I guess, if you even want to call Hunt that, or maybe not as dynamic, but he's just going to get the yards he's supposed to get and move the chains.
Yeah, I feel like Hunt was almost just like scrappy, like he was just slippery. And he never stopped moving. He fought for every inch. I know you weren't the biggest Kareem Hunt fan though, but he was. I love this style of play. Played with.
I mean, I hated the scenario in which they added him, and then he was good, and then it fell off real quick. And
yeah, it did.
Like and then all what I find really entertaining are the Browns fans who are like, man, I wish we had Kareem Hunt back. And I'm looking at Chiefs fans. Man, I wish we had any other running back on planet Earth.
Kareem Hunt last year would have been rough with that offensive line and those weapons. That would have been a stuck in the mud scenario. Before we move on to wide receivers, I want to touch this one from Turtle. His big two concerns going into training camp: cornerback and tight end. And I'm in like 10 billion% agreement there. And then this one, Phil right behind him, crushes it. Cornerback is the 2026 season, what the O-line was the 2025 season. Any injuries, and we're absolutely toast. And I agree. I mean, we talked about it before. If Denzel or Tyson Campbell want to take off any time, man, I hope it's a bye week. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, turn injuries off this year and we'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that I'm expecting they will do something between now and the start of training camp, or at some point during this thing, they're going to add something else.
If you could only do one, if you could only add a player to one, what would it be?
What do you mean? To what position?
Yeah, to either tight end or corner. Like, what do you think is in you would feel more comfortable about this year if we had just a little bit more there?
I'll say corner, because I'm not going to get what I want at tight end, and I'm going to be angry. I'm already.
You're already salty that you have to talk yourself into Joe Lawyer.
I know the team is more excited about this group than I am, and I hope they're right.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. The team understands that they need more corner help. The team thinks they have more at tight end than I do. So I hope the team is right. My track record says maybe you should bet on me, but nevertheless, I hope they're right.
Well, let me ask you this now, because it's like you say that you think the team likes tight end more than you, and they know that they need corner. They drafted a tight end. They drafted two tight ends. They didn't draft a corner. That still blows my mind, Pete. That still blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, listen, some of that comes down to how the board plays out. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I didn't love this corner class, so I get it. It's also increasingly a difficult position to draft. Like, I'm telling you, look around the league. Who do you think is good at corner? And I'll tell you the team I think is really good at corner, and it annoys the shit out of me. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're loaded at corner. And I look at all these other teams, and they are boned.
Yeah. Yeah. You know me. You know my thoughts on corners. I think corners are all fine and dandy, but if you don't have a pass rush, it doesn't matter. So, I look at that. I don't care. You can have Darrelle Revis and Champ Bailey out there, but if you can't put pressure on the quarterback, they're going to get picked apart, especially if it's a good quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, you can do more to mitigate corners than you could in the past, but the Browns have played so much man, it's really tough to cope.
Another thing I'll say, as opposed to tight end or cornerback, give me a tight end, because I think Denzel and Tyson Campbell are both better corners than Harold Fannin is a tight end. And I'm talking about a true number one tight end. I think Harold Fannin is excellent, and I love him as a receiving threat. But it comes to the actual position, and how good they are in the grand scheme of things in every facet of what that position calls for, I think he's below both of those guys. And I love Fannin. Those two are really good players. I feel like tight end is far less proven, and B, thinner.
Here's the biggest thing for me is like I add another tight end and the Browns just cut it because they really like what they have and it's going to annoy me. So like Warner's going to make the team.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But you get what I'm saying, though.
Listen, I get it. Like it's very difficult. You are trying to have me choose between my kids here between Tyson.
I'm not making you choose. It's like it's
tough. You're not wrong. They've done more. I mean, but like the thing is, like Harold Fannin was so good, and there's a realistic scenario where the Browns have added all these weapons, and he's still the number one dude.
Yeah,
and not only that, he's the number one dude, and you're happy about it. It's not like he's the number one dude, and you're like,
because he's the only dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only guy.
Yeah, like either you throw a quadruple team Judy or double team Fannin.
Like we shall see how this plays out. I don't rule out the possibility that Harold Fannin, that Denzel Boston is exactly what we hope he is. That Casey Concepcion's a weapon. That Isaiah Bond becomes a very solid role player and maybe a little bit more. And that Jerry Jeudy's, let's say, halfway between the last 2 years. And we're still sitting to go, yep, Harold Fannin's the dude. Harold Fannin is the guy. He sets the tone for everything else. And like, just schematically, it's very easy to do that just because of what you're going to be able to do in isolating him. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. I don't want to get too far over my skis and say it's absolutely going to happen because I don't there's a world where, Denzel Boston goes off and becomes this great receiver, or Jerry Jeudy goes 2024 again and has a great year or whatever. But man, Harold Fannin just does a lot of things that make it very easy for a coach like Monken, who had a lot of success with tight ends, and a tight end like Fannin, who I would argue is better than likely. So we'll see. But like, there's a very real possibility that Fannin is your number one receiver with all these guys they've had.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And it's funny because people think that Fannin's numbers have nowhere to go but down because there's going to be more people there. But Pete, I maintain this team being able to sustain offense and actually put drives together and stay on the field, everybody's going to eat more. Everybody's numbers should get better, right? I mean, that's obviously like they better. And if they're not able to stay on the field, then it doesn't matter. Like nobody's going to eat that whole, whatever. But yeah, what's that?
Grow the pie. You're not dividing the same pie. You need to make a bigger pie.
Yep, I agree. I agree completely. Well, now, we're on the topic. Let's talk about wide receiver. I think the battle for like the 5th and possibly 6th spot in that receiver room, because I'm kind of leaning towards they're likely to keep 6. Those are going to be interesting battles because like who do we have locked in, right? Judy's locked in. The 2 rookies are locked in. I assume that Isaiah Bond is locked in.
Yes.
Even though I would say that's like more of a fringe lock, like they want him to be locked in, but he could definitely play him way off the roster, right?
I think they love Isaiah Bond.
What's that?
I think they love Isaiah Bond.
Thank you. I've been saying this for a long time. I think so too.
Well, keep in mind, Andrew Berry did not sign him to like a traditional undrafted free agent contract.
No, he signed to a legit deal.
So like, that's part of this where like they committed to him, and to his credit, now we got to see it play out. He looks like a completely different receiver from last year.
Yeah.
So I think the Browns desperately want this to be like a 4-headed monster type thing in the receiver group, and then 5 and 6 can sort of supplement anything else. Whether that's realistic or not, I think it's probably more realistic to stay 3, and then you get some really nice contributions from Bond. It's really difficult for me to see like to project him getting like 50 targets or whatever. It's just not a huge number, but like we'll see. But I mean, like, could it happen? Yeah. But like, listen, if he's Rashad Perryman, 2018, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
great. Sign me
Yeah.
up for that. Like, I'd be really happy with that. I think the Browns are hoping he can do a little bit more than that. I would love to get more than that, but if I just get that, I'd be
You're
very
happy.
excited about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So outside of those names, we've got guys that are interesting and that I like. It's honestly it's kind of crazy to look at it. Like Tylan Wallace, right, is the free agent from Baltimore. He's got the history with Munkin. He knows the
Yeah.
offense, he knows the coaching style, all that stuff. You have been impressed this offseason with Tylan Wallace. He's made some plays. They clearly like him. He's viable on special teams. So like he definitely has like he has an into the roster that doesn't involve the wide receiver position. So even if he's going to be your 5 or 6 guy, he can still contribute on special teams. That's going to help, right?
Yep.
Malachi Corley, we both love. We both really, really like. Think he's a really tough player, but might just be caught in a numbers pinch, right?
He's the challenge ahead of him, but yeah.
Cedric Tillman, 6'3", 215, loads of potential, can't stay healthy, but when he's been healthy and he's gotten even the slightest semblance of quarterback play, he's made plays. He's had some really big moments and big time games and big time performances. And he's a complete afterthought. Nobody talks about Cedric Tillman anymore.
Well, I'm happy to talk about him. He's been rock solid thus far in OTAs as a possession guy who can run a curl, get open, use his body, and catch the ball. Everything with him is it comes down to contract versus what they've invested, and does it make sense in the long run? Obviously, they're not. I've said I don't think the Browns are running out to like shove Cedric Tillman out there and say, "Hey, we are trading this guy."
Yeah.
And there's the and to that is they need somebody else to sort of step up and prove viable enough that they can move off of Tillman.
Yeah.
But could certainly see a scenario where the Browns trade Tillman to get something they need, a corner or whatever, or some draft capital. And because like
maybe a speed rusher.
The problem you run it. Yeah. Well, listen, there are trades I could throw out there for the Falcons to go get my man back if the league's not going to suspend their first round James Pierce.
Yeah.
But like
I know exactly who you're talking about. It took me a second.
I will go get him. We'll pick him up.
I'm coming, baby. I'm coming.
I'm just look at the roster there. I'm just like, where are your reps coming from?
Yeah.
But like the bottom line is if Cedric Tillman has a great year, you're not going to be able to keep him. If he has a bad year, you're probably not going to want to keep him. So there's so many reasons to trade him. Hope he's great. I mean, you're not like doing this because you don't like him. You're just, go be great and sign a contract extension with that team because it's not going to come from here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, agreed completely. So another guy that we talk about that we both like is Jamari Thrash. Jamari Thrash is entering. This is going to be his 3rd year, right? Last year was his 2nd year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The 3rd-year guy out of Louisville. He just said, you say it all the time. He does the right thing. He catches the football. He gets open. He makes plays.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see if he can do enough to warrant a spot. I don't know if he does enough on special teams, but he can play inside and out, so that helps him. And yeah, he just seems to do things that work. But is he compelling enough to be kept? I think the thing that works for him is maybe the similar deal to Tylan Wallace. If he can play multiple spots, that certainly helps his case. Because contrast that against like Malachi Corley, who I like, and I think he will be better when they put pads on.
Mm-hmm.
But Concepcion may have taken a lot of his jobs.
Yeah.
And that's going to be difficult. I still think Malachi Corley is really interesting. If he can learn to play the position more and run routes and do those things, because he's 210 pounds. And if he can run routes and catch the ball, all of a sudden he's really interesting. But if he's just a manufactured touch guy, well, Casey Concepcion seemingly is going to get all those touches and be a factor in returning. So Malachi Corley goes from a cute toy to probably not here anymore, and probably not in Atlanta either, even though that would be right up Kevin Stefanski's alley, because they drafted him in the 3rd round. He was going to be that guy. So he's going to end up somewhere else if that's the case. I don't rule out the possibility that Malachi Corley can end up on the practice squad, because if something were to happen, you'd like to have that guy to be able to call up. But he's got to move the needle on the development piece, I think, to be able to prove that he's valuable enough to keep and move a guy like Tillman, because I think he needs both those things to happen to earn that roster spot.
How about the LSU kid that they got as the undrafted free agent? Is that a practice squatter?
Has not done here's evidence that this team's getting better at this position. Basically, nobody other than Cole Wilson occasionally has done squat since rookie camp relative to wow you. Aaron Anderson at rookie camp was like the dude. He caught all these passes, threw a ton of balls his way and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden now you're sitting here going, well, he's wide receiver 8 and he barely getting reps. He's not getting the ball like he was. He's clearly smaller than all these other guys.
Yeah. And he's like 5'8", right?
Yeah. Him and Cole Wilson are both in that size range. They're both super quick athletes. Cole Wilson has really good speed. Cole Wilson's really exciting with the ball in his hands, has kick return ability that is his best hope to sort of earn a spot in the practice squad. So I think all of those guys are on the outside looking in at this point. Injuries could change that. Maybe something's going to change that's going to open those things up. But here's the problem with those guys. It generally, if you are 5'8", 171 pounds, you generally light it up when pads are not on because they can't hit you. And then all of a sudden, 210-pound 6'2" Grant Delpit can hit you, and suddenly it's not as much fun anymore. It's a lot more difficult. Now, maybe one of these guys can prove to be the dude that the Steelers had the last few years, who I think signed with the Giants or whatever, Collins or whatever, Calvin Austin III. And maybe they can prove that that they're going to be better in contact and really impressed. But they have a really difficult hill to climb. It comes down to the fact that the Browns drafted Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, Isaiah Bond got better. Jerry Jeudy's not going anywhere. And they brought in guys like Tylan Wallace, and you still have Tillman. And so it's a really difficult climb for those guys.
Yeah, no, I
nobody's
agree.
Nobody's gonna be talking. Well, I mean, somebody will do it, but nobody's gonna be sitting here going, Damon Giuseppe should make the active roster this year at the wide receiver position.
Well, I wouldn't sleep on Luke Floria just yet, but if you want to, by all means, go ahead.
I'm going to go to sleep on all those guys.
All right, well, let's look.
This is what you want. Last year, we were hoping for major leagues type stories.
Yes.
We were hoping that, like, the Jamin Giuseppe thing was going to be Willie Mays Hayes, where he slept outside the facility and made his way onto the team. Like, no, the Browns drafted real talent.
Yeah,
that seems to be good, and there's no room for this great story to make the team. They've got guys with talent, pedigree, and all these things. You sit here and go, yeah, these guys are who we want to make the team.
Yeah, no, agreed. And that's the thing. It's a contrast now, because now we shuffle over to the tight end room, and it is not the same. We've got Harold Fannin, who we love, and then a lot of guys that we wish were the third and fourth tight end.
Yeah, that's that. I'm 100% with you on that, and I know the Browns are higher on the group than I am, and they are higher on one particular player than I am.
Are we talking about Joe Royer here?
We are.
So are they? I mean, they are. Is he like the tight end that they use the most behind Fannin, that they seem to be pushing up, or is it Stoll still?
No, I mean, I still at least in practices I have been able to see. You see a whole lot of Jack Stoll and Blake Whiteheart.
Okay,
at least in line position. Joe Royer does some stuff, and then Carson Ryan is basically doing some of the stuff that Fannin was doing, or Fannin would be doing if he were able to practice, and maybe Royer doing some of those things as well.
A little bit of move stuff, some fullback stuff.
Well, I don't know about fullback, but some move stuff. Jack Stoll's done some move stuff in terms of being a fullback type element.
How often is Michael Burton on the field?
enough to notice him, but not like I've said all along. I think he's.
I was gonna say, is he gonna make the team?
I don't think so. I think he's
Yeah,
there to sort of set the standard and show what they want, but they really want somebody else to take that job. I think they desperately want Carson Ryan to be that guy, but maybe something else comes up,
yeah,
a waiver claim, a trade, something where somebody gets cut and they're like, yeah, we want this guy, and maybe that they want Michael Burton to sort of help that dude out, and he gets a whole bunch of kudos for doing that element that people like me might talk about, but like won't get a whole lot of press in terms of his value to the roster, because I don't think there's a world where you're sitting there going, yes, Michael Burton, opening day fullback in year 12 or whatever he's in at this point. Like, I think
yeah.
they're going to find somebody who can do that element. Obviously, we're going to see. We're going to see when the pads come on, how many guys get a look at that. And the other part about that is who's going to make it through.
Yeah.
Uh, Violent position. Sounds like Todd Monken wants to do more contact. So that's going to be a big piece of that.
You think we keep 3, 4, or 5 tight ends?
4. Um, a lot will depend on
Who's the odd man out?
what they think they can get on the practice squad. I think Fannin, Royer,
Because I'm, I'm
Ryan.
looking, I'm looking between Stoll and Whitehart. Yeah,
I think Stoll is probably a better bet than Whitehart right now. And Whitehart's probably the guy that ends up on the practice squad. And this comes down to the fact of they've done it before.
yeah,
They've gotten him to the practice squad before. And, this will be one of those things where people will go, I think Blake Whitehart's going to be the number 2 tight end on this team. And then they cut him because they've seen over and over and over again they can't.
yeah. You think
I
there's any chance our boy
great about that
Kelvin
prediction, by
tries
the way,
to?
because
Go
I don't
ahead.
feel great about that prediction because I need to see them block. I need to see them do the physical stuff.
Yeah,
But just based on what I've seen, I think they like Jack Stoll. Again, this coaching staff picked him.
yeah.
That's
That's a big deal. That's a big part of it.
always a big component in these elements. So yeah, and again, can they get through healthy, or are they going to need to do some finagling?
You think Whitehart could make it to the practice squad? Do you think Stefanski would pluck him?
Who, Whitehart?
Yeah,
I mean, they've got tight ends. I don't know if there's like a spot for him on their roster or not. I mean, it's possible,
yeah.
but they may be satisfied with what they have done there. But it's possible. I mean, this is the deal. Like, you get guys, you sign guys you trust, and maybe Kevin Stefanski trusts what he's seen from Whitehart in that small capacity.
Yeah.
Again, this is another position where I could see them making a late ad. Somebody gets cut that they like, that somebody or somebody gets cut that Monken has worked with before, and that makes it easy, or something along those lines. I don't feel great about that prediction, but like, the 2 rookies aren't getting cut, I don't think. I've been impressed by Carson Ryan. Again, the team seems really impressed with, seems happy with what they've seen from Royer.
You think there's any chance that they would try to sneak Ryan onto the practice squad and keep a veteran like Whitehart just because they trust him a little bit more?
I don't think so, because Carson Ryan does a lot of dirty work things that I think they value. And again, especially if they think he can do the fullback stuff, that will certainly be big. And I think he also, I'd have to look. I don't remember if that's on my head. For some reason, I think he also does a lot of stuff on special teams.
All right. Well, before we jump over to the offensive line, this one from Phil is worth chatting about. Any thoughts on Coach Rutenberg's capacity to keep the D at least in the top 10 despite losing Myles Garrett? Arguably, he had a pretty easy transition to DC with Myles on the roster, but not so much now. This is going to be, I think this is going to be one of those annoying storylines of the season that is completely unfair for Rutenberg. And I mean, it's unfair for everybody involved. Like, we knew Myles was on his way out eventually, or at least the writing was on the wall that he might want to be out. But this is a great question. There's going to be pressure on Rutenberg this year.
Well, I mean, if you're saying statistically a top 10 defense, there's sort of a number of ways you can grade that, but ultimately that's going to be impacted by what the offense does.
Yeah.
If the offense is garbage, the defense could be a trope. In terms of like, this feels like a top 10 defense or something along those lines, I think that's more achievable. I think he's really smart. I think he understands what he wants. I've been very impressed by what I've seen from him in terms of how he coaches. I think he's a really good fit for the people they have on this team, particularly in the front seven. But I think those safeties are also going to sort of fit in his wheelhouse as well. So we'll see if he can. The biggest thing, they're not going to be as impactful as a like overwhelming pass rush team the way they were with Myles Garrett in terms of a one-man wrecking group.
Yeah.
What you might see is more of a Steelers style pass rush where the different things that they're sending at them, you occasionally just find guys who are unblocked and just get home and you're just like, man, this is great. This is so easy and all these other things. That's where I think you could see happening. But the biggest thing for me with Mike Rudenberg continues to be, can he just eliminate the busts? Because say what you will about Schwartz and all the things they're able to do, there were just times you sit there going, oh my God, how is this happening where they're just getting crushed on the field? If he could just close those holes, I think he's got a really good shot at keeping this defense really good, even if it's not as like overwhelming the force that it could be where like there were games like the Miami Dolphins game last year where the Dolphins had no chance, just none. I don't think we're likely to get that. I think it will be, there may be games with like they're called brilliantly and it just feels like they have the answers, but it's not like the sheer force of nature that like the Browns defense was with Jim Schwartz, because he had Malik Collins and Myles Garrett and all these other guys just firing on all cylinders. But one, obviously a lot of this defense is going to rely on the interior in a way that they haven't in previous years. They are obviously counting on Mason Graham to have a big year too. When Malik Collins comes back, they're hoping he's going to pick up where he left off last year, where he was incredible. And they need Mike Hall to be the guy they drafted. So they are doing, without Myles Garrett, they need those guys to be a bigger influence. And then obviously the Jared Verse thing is a big deal. And Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire, and those guys are hopefully helpful, but it's just going to be a different dynamic of where this pressure is coming from, because it's probably going to be coming from blitzes and stunts and these other elements, as opposed to, well, Myles is going to close this thing out, and in the game, maybe we'll still have some of that stuff, but I think it's going to be far more of a democratic stat sheet in terms of sacks this year.
Yeah, I agree with Pete, and I feel like there's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people, and there's even people in the chat talking about Myles loafed it and gave up on plays and stuff like that. Look, Myles Garrett was not a perfect player. Myles Garrett off the field left a lot of things to be desired. He wasn't the leader that we wanted him to be. This speeding ticket nonsense, all that other stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff with Myles that you can kind of poke holes at, this, that, or the other. To me, Myles Garrett is the single greatest defensive player I've ever seen. And the impact he's had on the game for the Browns and the stuff that he was able to do. Like Pete was saying, if the offense isn't good, the defense is toast. It's just toast, right? But it wasn't necessarily that way with Myles Garrett, because he's the best edge we've ever seen. He absolutely wrecked game plans. If he wasn't triple teamed, he was a problem. Like I get the optimism that we have, because I like Rutenberg. I really like Jared Verse. I love the young talent on this defense. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. Guys, not having Myles Garrett is going to look so different. It's going to be so different.
Well, the transition that you're trying to make, the Rams did it. Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett is in the Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt atmosphere of players, that pantheon of greatness. The Rams lose Aaron Donald. They were able to make that transition. Mm-hmm. The Browns have to prove that they can. Houston fell off a bit when J.J. Watt retired. Obviously, they've gotten back there and are really, really good now.
Yeah.
So it's you got to find how you're going to transition. Those are franchise quarterback level impacts on the defensive side of the ball, 100%. So Myles Garrett was a franchise quarterback level player. Taking that off your team, it's not going from that to, Shedeur Sanders as an example, but it might be going to the difference between a top of the line guy who's in every game type thing to maybe top 12 type quarterback. And we'll see what that looks like. But, the one hand, you can't rely on Myles Garrett to fix it for you. So more guys have to step up and take responsibility. That could have a positive and negative effect. Positive is they have more ownership of this thing. It feels like more of their own defense. Not that necessarily it wouldn't have with Garrett, but some guys may look at this go, more opportunities for me. The other possibility is that guys get exposed because Myles Garrett is not there. And we've certainly seen that with time when he's been injured. I'd like to think that the Browns have enough impact players on this unit to sort of overcome that. If you're just looking at impact players on each level, Malik Collins and Jared Verse, Carson Schlesinger, and then Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit. Like, you've got guys at each level. Now, if you can get Jason Graham to that level, if you can get if Quincy Williams can regain that form, I'm not really betting on that, but nevertheless, he's been an all-pro. Tyson Campbell could theoretically be in that realm. Then all of a sudden, you've got enough guys to sort of make up for it. But the thing that I expect it's going to drive me nuts, and I'm going to be bitter about it the whole year, is I'm going to want more pass rush.
Yeah.
I just fully expect I'm going to come out of this season going, we need more pass rush.
Yeah. I mean, that's inevitable. I mean, we've been lucky enough to watch, I mean, the best we've seen do it from the edge position, I mean, obviously J.J. Watt is a different type of edge though. Either way, let's shuffle over to the offensive line. We talked about this one a little bit earlier, but like as it stands right now, we've got 3 positions locked in, right? We got left tackle, right tackle with Spencer Fano and Titus Howard, and we've got left guard, we got Zion Johnson. So we know that Elton Jenkins is starter number 4. We just don't know if it's going to be center or if it's going to be right guard. I want to say it's recently been he's the starting center, and then it's been a rotation of Tevin Jenkins or KT Leviston. I don't know if anybody else got run with the ones at right guard. I don't know if who did? Jack Conley? Okay, so there's another one, and he's gotten some first and second team run at tackle as well.
Not first team at tackle,
but second team. Then.
I think he's only been first team right guard. He's been second team right tackle and left guard.
Okay,
but the bottom line is the upside is they think they've got options. The downside is it may be an indicator that they're not very good at it, and they're hoping one of these guys steps up. Obviously, the best case scenario is that Parker Brailsford is so good and so impressive that he comes in and Elton Jenkins goes to right guard, where he's just like, yep, this is easy.
Yeah.
The second best outcome, I would suspect, if the Browns were honest, and right, would be Elton Jenkins at center, and then KT Leviston can do enough to prove that he's a viable right guard. That's going to be an interesting conversation. One that will be really interesting in training camp, because KT Leviston is going to go against the guys that theoretically should give him the most problems. Mike Hall Jr. and Mason Graham and Malik Collins are all guys that I think will, if KT Leviston can't do it, they're going to expose that he can't do it.
Yeah.
Quickness, beating him to the spot, those type of things. And if he doesn't have answers for that, it's going to be over real quick. If you're trying to go through his chest, he will be fine. It's can he be the quick reaction? Those guys are going to give him a look. Is he going to be able to handle the stunts? Is he going to be able to handle all these other things where you got to be able to head on a swivel, quick reaction, and be able to adjust? I still think the Browns would admit that that's their preference.
Yeah.
If they need Elton Jenkins at center, but I don't think they're ruling out anything, including Jack Conley. But yeah, I mean, look, Tevin Jenkins is the safest option to start at right guard in that scenario, but his health
Yeah.
track
He's also the most precarious,
abysmal.
right? The
So
most
you
fragile.
immediately have to have somebody else who can do it and step in potentially as early as the third series of the game.
So, how many linemen do you think they'll ultimately keep? Like 9, 10? I think 11 would be a stretch, right? 8 would be too few.
It's either going to be a 9 or 10, and I think ultimately it's going to come down to, do they have 9 or 10 NFL caliber linemen at this point? Because it's easy to say they'll keep 10, but unless they feel good about the 10th guy, then they can put somebody on the practice squad and get enough.
Well,
So
let's go over the numbers. All right, I got 1 through 10 right now. We got Fano, number 1. We'll go Zion Johnson, number 2. We'll go Elton Jenkins, number 3. We'll go Titus Howard, number 4. And then we'll go Tevin Jenkins, 5. We'll go KT, 6. We'll go Austin Barber, 7. We'll go DeWand, 8. And then we'll go with Parker Brailsford, 9.
Yep.
Who's that 10? Is it going to be Zach Zinter?
No.
Is it going to be your boy Jack Conley?
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, versatility is going to be key in the reserves, right? So Zinter can play guard or center. You got Conley can play guard or tackle. I saw the face.
No, he can't.
And say what you will about Zinter.
Based on what I've seen, he cannot do either of those things.
Okay.
So what you're looking at right now is Jack Conley, Luke Whippler, guy not currently on team. Unless I'm missing somebody that let me look and see. Let me check. I don't think I'm missing anybody, because you've got guys like Xavier Miller. I haven't seen enough from Tyree Phillips. Maybe I still think he's more likely for the practice squad.
What about Kendrick Green? He's got center potential or experience, doesn't he?
Yeah, but it's the same deal. Like I can see a world where the Browns are basically like Whippler and Green get cut, and we're gonna get whichever one, mix it back to the practice squad.
Yeah.
So that Center Johnson Green, so so unless like there's Kingsley Eguakun, I don't think he's there yet. I know he works his ass off, but he's another one I think they get that's so right off the top, I can think of 3 centers that they could cut and at least get one of them back, at least one, if not 2, back in the practice squad. That's sort of the game you play at that point. So
yeah,
maybe there's somebody else that they bring in that's interesting, but like that's where I think, if you're asking me right now, I think it's Jack Conley versus guy not on the roster, and that's unfair to Luke Whippler, but Luke Whippler has not been able to do anything. So obviously training camp, he's got to be ready to go and practice, and then maybe he's going to stay his case. But if I'm just going off of right this second, I think it's Jack Conley versus viability. Like if he's viable to be a 10th lineman, the Browns basically feel like we've got to keep him, because if we don't, he's going to get picked up. Is the competition to me at this point.
That's fair. That's fair. And I mean, you look at it, it's locked in pretty good, because those top 9 are pretty solid. Like I don't see them moving off that top 9. Like those guys are, it's either, draft picks or guys that have proven to be able to play when healthy, and they have slotted roles. Like DeWan's.
There's a possibility that one of those guys isn't safe, which is KT Leviston. Like the upside, he's got such a weird range of outcomes. He could go from starting right guard to not on the team.
Yeah.
Now, if he's not on the team, I think it would be a trade. But nevertheless, like that's how big of a range I think there is for him.
Yeah. No, I mean, agreed. And like you said, and like we've talked about this whole time. I mean, the pads and training camp are going to be the great equalizer. That's going to bring so many things to light. They haven't look. It's tackle football, and we haven't seen any hitting yet. So as much as we think we know what these guys are going to do, or what the roster is going to look like, or how this thing's going to come together, I mean, we just don't.
Right.
None of the important stuff has happened yet. All right. Well, that's it for the offense. And so what were our final note? What did we never talked about this with wide receivers. Do you see them keeping 5 or 6 receivers?
6.
6.
That's a
so
lot.
we got
that's a 1,000% lot.
Okay, so we got 6 receivers, 4 tight ends. Are we going to keep 10 linemen, or are we going to let Conley go?
Well, it depends. It depends. We got to see where we end up. That may depend on what we have on defense. But
This is true.
3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 tight ends, and the 6 receivers you can lock in, and you can sit there with 9 linemen with a possible 10th, and then see where we're at on the numbers. You should be right around 25, 24.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We got
And then
25 on the dot. Yeah.
How many?
25 on the dot offensively if we're keeping 9 offensive linemen. It's 26 if we keep that 10th.
Yeah, that's not great. That's not great for Conley. That might be
tough. That's tough.
Yeah, I said that. There are some places where we may have 2 linebackers at this end of this. We'll see.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's
some spots on the defense where you're sitting there going, there are guys you like, but are you really sitting there going, I really need these guys on the roster? And I think that's unfortunately like everything but safety.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go. We'll start with the front. We'll start with the defensive line. We'll start with defensive end. So obviously Jared Verse is the centerpiece of the Myles Garrett deal for us. We're going to slot him in at one side. We got Alex Wright on the other side. We got Isaiah McGuire backing up both spots. And then it gets a little bit thin and or not exciting. We've got Julian Aquara is one of the veterans that's still hanging around. And then you're looking at your boy that they got Aiden Hutchinson listed as a defensive end on the official site at the moment.
I wish as much. I do love Aiden Huntington, but I do wish he was Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, that's my bad. That's a good call on that one. Well, let's talk about so we got Logan Fano and Tyreek Sapp are the undrafted guys that we brought in. And then Corday Sindor is another one. Mm-hmm. Or Sidnor. Yep. Anything on those guys? Anything catching your fancy at all? I mean, it looks like one of those guys has a legitimate shot to make the team.
Welcome to the problem. I like Logan, Fano. I'm intrigued by Tyreek Sapp. Pads are going to be big for both those guys. They play a style which sort of needs pads, particularly Tyreek Sapp.
Yeah.
Logan Fano is very good with his hands. Seems to understand what he's supposed to do, but we've got to see him do it against real dudes in pads and the whole thing. But and that's obviously where this thing's going to get interesting. But if you're asking me right this second, you would rather have somebody else on the team and those guys fighting for practice squad spots, straight up. Which is not to say that those guys can't get better, won't figure it out. And because last year, since I wasn't at practice, I didn't get to other than saying beforehand the second they signed him, I thought he had a good chance to make the team. It wasn't until the preseason where I got to see the glory that was Aiden Huntington. That may be the situation where we get that breakout surprise. But if you're asking me right this second, I would much rather have a pure pass rusher, and 2, a fifth truer edge that's a little bit more proven or has a little bit more juice. I could see the Browns bringing in somebody and bringing that person in to take that, and then having those guys fight for practice squad spots at this point. I think that's where this thing should have ended up. Obviously, I was pushing for the Browns to draft edge as always, but so that's where we're at with that. Where I've got 4 guys I feel really good about, and if you're asking me right this second based on who's on the roster, I would say Logan Fano, but I'm still of the opinion that they are probably looking to try to juice that up a little bit, or unless Fano can sort of wow them before they get to that point.
How about defensive tackle, Pete? Because this is a position that I have legitimate concern for. I think we're a little bit light on depth. I don't like the fact that all three guys that are our top three, right? Mason Graham, Malik Collins, and Mike Hall Jr. They've all had injury issues this offseason. Mason Graham was in a walking boot, preventative or not, I don't care. Mike Hall had the knee thing that he had to, he didn't have a brace on his knee and he limped off the field, and then he's had a brace on ever since. Malik Collins is obviously, coming off of injury. That's a scary position, man, because they're not that deep, and losing one of those guys puts a big damper on that. What are you more concerned about? Are you more concerned about D end or D tackle?
Edge.
Yeah.
The big thing with, I'm curious to see if Mike Hall Jr. can get healthier.
Yeah.
I do think the brace is life at this point. I think he's just always going to have it.
That's such a shame.
Like, he was good in it, to his credit. So it may be a situation where he's healthy and it's just like, this feels good, I'm not going to change it. But I am curious to see if in this break he can continue to build strength and added stability that makes that just feel better, even if he's wearing the brace.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mason Graham was a walking boot. I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll be ready for practice. He looked fantastic. Obviously, no pads on and what he was doing. And then Malik Collins is fantastic. It's just a question of when is he going to be out there? And I don't know the answer to that. And then Khalil Davis is going to make this team. Like, Khalil Davis is the guy they brought in. He's going to probably look a lot like Jordan Elliott. As a nose, as a guy who can not only the thing you like about Khalil Davis and watching his tape is, like, there are so many of these big, heavy two-gapper guys that are struggling against the amount of zone teams are running, because all these zone teams are making these guys work laterally. And if you're 340, you may not, or 330, 340, you may not be great at doing that and working down the line. Khalil Davis, who only has had one really healthy season, which was last year, so you're figuring out on that one, but he can work laterally and create help from that standpoint. So I think you're fine there. And again, I'll touch back on Aiden Huntington. What is he?
Yeah.
For them, they list him at the end. Is he actually at the end? Are they using him as a big end? Is he really more of a defensive tackle? I'd be curious to know what he weighs. If they've had him add weight, if he basically just stayed the same, if he didn't change anything. And then, do they view a guy like Tyreek Sapp or somebody else as a potential D tackle? I would say that's unlikely unless Tyreek Sapp has added weight. He's light for that position. He's fine for being a big end. But after that, it's a little dicey for a fifth option. And they've brought in a number of guys to sort of try to find something. Elijah Chapman was brought in off of waivers and barely practiced, and it was just a mini camp, and he's listed super light.
And Sam Kamara is the other one. I feel like he's been on the roster for the last 9 years.
And he's another guy where, unless Jim Schwartz is getting a job somewhere, they've put this guy in the practice squad 35 times. Nobody's ever, so I expect they're going to do that again. So is there somebody out there where they sit there and go, man, this is great? Like, is what's his face still hanging around? The dude the Browns brought in as lightning in a bottle, the former Michigan man who played for the 49ers. Is he still around? They're going to kick the tires on him and
Maurice Hurst.
Yeah, is he the answer, or is there somebody else out there, or are they just sort of like, we gotta make one of these guys into that? I don't know, but
I feel like Khalil Davis was that guy, because that was one of those 1-year vet prove it deals for peanuts that you basically raise the floor of a certain position.
He was drafted with promise. He just then got hurt.
He was gonna be like either a second or a third round pick, but he had that heart issue. He fell to like the 7th round. You remember that the year he came out? That was a big story. The Raiders took him.
No, I know that for Hurst, I
Yeah.
don't know about Corey Davis. I don't know.
Oh
Yeah.
no, not Khalil. I was talking
Oh,
about
I
Hurst.
remember that for Hurst. Yeah.
Oh, you were talking about Davis. Oh, that's my fault. I thought you were talking about Hurst. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so both edge and it feels like edge and tackle. They have 4 guys they're happy with, and we're sitting there going, about
Yeah.
they want to keep 10, and I suspect they do want to keep 10. Obviously, with Jim Schwartz, that was a lock. Yet to be determined here, but I have to imagine that with what they want to do defensively, that's going to be a pretty big key for them. Now, having said that, this is true of Myles Garrett as well. Jared Verse plays a ton of reps.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think they want more than that. And
well, you said they're good with 4 defensive ends. Who's your 4th defensive end? Because I only see 3.
Well, it depends. What do you count? What
Unless
is
you're talking about Fano or Sapp or one of those guys.
If I'm going right now, I would take Fano.
Yeah. Well, no, but you said like they feel good about 4 guys here and 4 guys there, and you don't. I don't think they feel good about 4 defensive ends. I think they hope that one of those guys. Yeah.
Do they? I guess that depends. They either feel good about. I think they feel good about 8 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Depending on where you put Aiden Huntington.
All right. Well, let's move along to linebacker. This is another position room that I love because I really like Quincy Williams. I really love the free agent addition. I love his play style. He's so explosive. He's a lot of fun. I absolutely love what he would have looked like in last year's defense. I'm assuming he's going to look great in this year's defense too. I mean, he's got all the experience with Rutenberg to make it work. Obviously, Carson Schlesinger is Captain America. He's a rock star. Not much after that, Pete. And this is another one. This is very top heavy for us, man. If the injury bug goes to linebacker room,
they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
You think Tarver and Rudy are that good that they'll just make magic?
Do you remember the linebackers they brought up to beat the Baltimore Ravens when JOK was out and they were down to like guys off the street?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't remember. I mean, I'm assuming that was an Anthony Walker year, right? Did we have Anthony Walker? Was he hurt then?
He was hurt. They brought in that one dude who had like 10 tackles, who was like a former reasonably big deal. And then like all these people wanted to like sign him to some contract extension, were like pissed when they let him walk after the year.
But this was the Raiders guy, something Smith?
No, it may have been the Raiders, but it was definitely, I don't think it was Smith, but nevertheless, there was a dude where he had like 10 tackles, and like there were people who were like, we have to re-sign this guy. We have to get, and all he was just a load in the middle. All he did was a hammer. That's it. But against that game, because it was raining, you just kept slamming into things and it worked. So yes, Carson Schlesinger and Quincy Williams make this thing go. And obviously I want them to stay healthy. And again, I'm advocating, turn injuries off, eliminate this as a problem. But
that's the easiest thing. I agree.
I'm not worried about it. I think as long as he can stay healthy, I think Boogie Watson will make this team. I think Justin Jefferson will make this team. And then the if they keep 5, which is too many, but whatever.
I like Winston Reed. Always have.
Well, there's Winston Reed. There's Easton Mascarenas Arnold. A lot of it's going to come down to what they want. So it might be Winston Reed at that point. I think a lot of it's going to come down to does Tarver feel like he's gotten far enough with Easton Mascarenas to be that dude? So that's the spot where I sit there and go, I haven't seen enough. But I think if he's healthy, Buki Watson is your Sam when you need one. And that Justin Jefferson is going to be in a role that's sort of yet to be determined.
What do you think about this? I mean, because I'm assuming we're going to have, I mean, whether it's E-Man or Hickman or Delpit, we're going to have guys moving all over, whether they're in the slot or they're playing linebacker or whatever. I mean, we're going to have multiple safeties. Would you consider?
It doesn't make me. I mean, the defense is going to play in a way where it's going to feel like you have an extra body there, but that doesn't make me feel better about well, again, I don't feel bad about the linebacker room. I'm fine.
Yeah.
This is more aimed at you, who's whiny and nervous and doesn't trust Rutenberg and Tarver, who've done nothing but just craft dogs at the position and just had wild amounts of success. Like, no, the safety position I'm excited about and all the things it's going to do, but it doesn't really change anything for me. The dynamic, other than it seems like the Browns want to have 3 safeties on the field and 2 linebackers as often as possible.
I would like it stricken from the record that I am not being whiny. I am merely discussing concerns at positions with a lack of depth and a lack of experience, Pete. All right? Keep the gloves up. I don't appreciate this.
Train dogs. Just let them go. Just go attack. Tarver and Rutenberg are good at that. They've been really good at finding those guys. They both have an outstanding track record. And Tarver's done it with some dude that we can't even think of.
Yeah, it's kind of making me mad that I can't think of that, to be honest with you. You know, and like I don't want to Google it because that's such a cop out. Just be a man, remember. All right, well, that's it. Look, let's shuffle over to cornerback because I don't want to get depressed when I can't remember this guy. So obviously we've been talking about it. There's some depth issues, right? We love Denzel. We love Tyson Campbell. I think we're both bigger fans of Miles Harden than most, but he's the guy that you kind of turned me on to last year. He's a well-built kid. He's a physical player. He's fast. I like Miles Harden. I think he's only going to get better.
I hope so. Now it's the battle of the 2 miles right now.
Yeah.
Between him and Miles for that slot position. I think they're going to keep both unless they bring in somebody else to sort of supersede one of them. So I think those two guys are going to make it. Obviously, Campbell and Ward.
What do we think about Michael Coates Jr.? I feel like that guy's, at least in my mind, he's kind of leading that last spot
over D'Angelo Ross.
I mean, him or Trey Avery or the 30 other, mid-tier corners they signed this offseason to 1-year prove-it deals.
Right this second, I'm inclined to think D'Angelo Ross, and if they keep a 6th guy, it's Coates. That could change. Coates could just snatch that job right from D'Angelo Ross if he continues to come along the way that the team seems to think he could. I don't know how tricky it will be to get him on the practice squad. It might be easy to get D'Angelo Ross on the practice squad. After all, the Browns got him from the practice squad last year when they signed him in the first place.
Yep.
So, look, man, based on what I've seen from Trey Avery, I do not think he's going to make the team. He is at the end of a whole lot of highlights. So we'll see. And then the other one I'm sort of curious about, and I think he's going to be more likely on the practice squad, would be, well, I should say both Delaware guys. Something about how Delaware runs their scheme and coaches their players was of particular interest to the corners coach. Because I literally asked him about that, and I'd have to look up what he said, but like he has a relationship with that DB's coach and really likes the way they coach those guys. So I suspect both those guys are going to end up with the practice squad in some form or fashion.
Okay, and you're talking about Nate Evans and Tyron Herring. What about
Correct.
Dom Jones? Do you think Dom Jones has a chance to stick on the roster? Because I mean,
well,
he's the same.
He literally hasn't done anything so far. He's been out the entire time watching. Body type wise, he's a big press corner. He's in the same mold as Martin Emerson and the dude they had from the Vikings for a minute who I really liked. But anyway, they like these tall guys who have really hot, really excellent agility, but don't have top end speed. That's sort of the driving force and why these guys fell. But the problem with Dom Jones is I haven't seen it. Like, Dom Jones is a carryover from Jim Schwartz. The question, and I don't know the answer to this, is how much of that was a Jim Schwartz thing of having that big press corner that can match up with some of these big bodies. You're going to play T. Higgins. You're going to play DK Metcalf.
Yeah,
you might be fine with Tyson Campbell. That was a big answer to those guys. Like, he does have size, but if you want another one of those guys, Dom Jones is the biggest corner they have. Tyron Herring's not small either, so he's got to get on the field. Like, I find him intriguing as a prospect, but there's just not much to see of him to this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that brings us to last but not least. It brings us to safety. I feel like safety's pretty deep, all things considered. You know, we added Daniel Thomas this offseason to a free agent deal, and that's gonna go with Donovan McMillan, who we had as a UDFA last year. That I mean, outside of the sack he had in Miami, I mean, outside of special teams, like we didn't see much from last year. But that's a kid that you and I both like.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're all excited about him, man. Ronnie Hickman's developed into a really nice player, and Grant Delpit is the leader of the defense and a damn good safety.
Yeah, I think
It's a good room.
I think it's the easiest room to project.
Yeah.
Now I could be dead wrong in the end, but I think it's literally going to go Grant Delbert, Ronnie Hickman, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Donovan McMillan, and Chris Edmonds. Like I think it's going to go right down that line. Maybe there's a world where Zion Williamson is going to, or Washington is going to surprise. He snatches that last spot. Could be interesting. I think he's more likely to make the practice squad, but they have a type. They like it. This is a group that's been entirely assembled outside of Grant Delpit by Ephraim Banda, and he's basically used Grant Delpit, near as I can tell, as the model of all the other guys he's acquired. So I think that this is the one with the most depth. It's the easiest to project. And I think this is the one the team's the most excited about, which is part of the reason they feel good about being able to go to the three safeties more of the time.
The only pushback I'm going to give you is I think they keep Daniel Thomas over Chris Edmonds, and I think it's entirely for special teams.
I mean, Chris Edmonds does play special teams, but it's possible.
Was he on last year's special teams, Pete? Because they weren't very good. That's why Daniel Thomas is here.
Well, here's the thing about last year's special teams. Last year's
I'm
special
still
teams.
mad about the whiny thing. I didn't mean to come after you like that.
Daniel Thomas. I mean, last year's special teams were abysmal, and Grant Delpit almost made the Pro Bowl on special teams.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. All right. Well, realistically, going over all of that stuff, well, let's do the defensive numbers now, right? We had what, 4 defensive ends,
Or 8 defensive linemen, so we've got some holes to fill.
okay, and then linebackers. Well, we have 5 linebackers, right?
Yeah.
So 5 linebackers. We're going 6 corners because we're going to
probably going to end up being 5
because we're going 5 safeties.
Correct.
Got you.
Which means here's what I could see happen. They might keep 6 corners initially to see how the dust settles and then switch it when they make waiver claims to add more defensive linemen, if that's the way this is going to play out, because we need 2 more guys.
Well, I'm just letting you know right now.
Or we need 1 more guy and Jack Conley.
Well, so if we're keeping 10 offensive linemen and your boy Jack Conley, that brings us up to 26 offensive players. Right now, we only have 23 defensive players, and then the 3 special teams, the kicker, punter, long snapper, brings us up to 52. We got wiggle room, Pete Smith.
Yeah,
we got wiggle room. We can go shopping.
Yeah, I mean, the wiggle room is we are grossly understaffed on the defensive line right now. We are missing 2 dudes that we should have. So, you know, that's sort of the push and pull on this thing. If they keep 10 defensive linemen, or they do the thing where they sort of keep a strength or a guy they don't want to lose, or try to sneak into the practice squad, hold on to 6 corners or whatever, and then wait till the dust settles and then make waiver claims and do some other stuff, that this thing could get interesting. But yeah, I mean, there are clearly some spots that they've got to sort out. Most of them seemingly are on the defensive line right now, and that back end corner position is up for grabs. But the thing is, offense is relatively settled. I mean, like, to the extent where if I'm wrong about running back, it's not because they didn't have enough guys. It's because they liked somebody else they already had, which is likely in this case, or somebody got hurt. But in this case, it's like Amani Marshall was good enough to unseat Raheem Sanders. Mm-hmm. Wide receiver, they're going to have enough dudes. Like, they've got more than enough dudes. Tight end, I would say, is a little bit sketchy, but the team may feel better about it. Quarterback, we're sitting here going, I wish we didn't have as many, and they're ultimately going to keep more than we have. The offensive line is the one where you're sitting there going, well, it depends if they feel like they have enough NFL caliber offensive linemen. But then you go to defense, and it's don't love what I have here on the bottom of the end of the defensive line. I think they have plenty of linebackers, just figuring out which one they have. Corners genuinely a question mark. Safety, I think, is fine. So that is where you can quickly identify where they should theoretically be looking to add more talent. If they can get a veteran edge, they can add some pass rush juice or another defensive tackle or a corner. Like, you can fill out the rest of this roster. Now, the big unknown with this is ultimately going to be injuries. I hope that they have a super healthy, injury-free thing, and we're not having to scramble. But such is life with this whole thing, where that's unlikely to be the situation.
Yeah, well, always, and that's the worst part about professional sports is the injuries. It just is. I mean,
turn off injuries. Like,
yeah.
Why can't we agree to this?
It seems so easy. I can't imagine anybody fighting against that too. That'd be nice, man. So I got to I gotta bring this up because I was thinking about this the other day, and it just it upset me to my core. But if you go back about 12 years, and the coaching staff that we had on the offensive side of the ball, let's talk about Johnny Manziel, Pete. Johnny Manziel's first year in Cleveland, he had Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel. In his second year in Cleveland, he had Kevin O'Connell as his quarterbacks coach. I get so mad thinking about that and some of the talent that we've had into the building, but just for whatever reason, found a way to screw it up.
I had players telling me that they thought Kevin O'Connell was going to be a superstar.
Yeah, I remember you saying that because you like DiFilippo too, but you said Kevin O'Connell is going to be a star. I remember you saying those exact words. And I remember just kind of shrugging it off, yeah, okay, shut up. And here we are. Look at that. Crazy. I don't, speaking of Kevin O'Connell, speaking of the Vikings, what do you think is going to happen with J.J. McCarthy and that quarterback competition?
Well, the competition is
Murray's not good.
No, but he's going to win the job.
I mean, you think so?
Yeah, I think he's going to win that job. It's just a question of where do they go beyond that?
Well, let me ask you this, right? We've seen O'Connell have really good success, right, with Cousins, and then obviously with Darnold, right, and then J.J. McCarthy wasn't able to really get it going. Kyler Murray doesn't play on schedule. Nope. He's not I'm going to run your offense the exact way you want it to guy. That's not him. Especially a coach like KOC, man, I don't know that he's going to love that. I don't see it as a great fit. I really don't. And I mean, maybe I am downplaying how good Kyler Murray is. I don't think he wins that job. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a remarkable athlete. He's one of the more talented people in the league. I just don't think he's good at that position.
I think it comes down to how do the receivers deal with it. If they're good at sort of improvising when the play's broken up, seems like Justin Jefferson would be fine. Jordan Addison could be fine. I mean, and the other thing is maybe Kyler Murray is willing to do a little bit more in terms of trying to play on schedule in this offense, and maybe that improves the situation. Look, I don't think the Vikings are going to be good.
Yeah.
But I do think he's going to win the job. And whether they feel like they can rehab J.J. McCarthy, unlikely.
Yeah.
And maybe he goes on a Sam Darnold-like journey throughout the league, but they're ultimately going to be likely be in the market for a quarterback next year. Now, whether that's going to be through the draft, free agency, or otherwise, is going to be a giant question mark.
Yeah, well, agreed. And I mean, that's the position. If you don't have a rock star, you're looking for a rock star, and pretty much everybody's stuck in the mud without one. So You know, look, they took a calculated risk on McCarthy at 10, regardless, but to just go unchallenged with him as the starter a year after Sam Darnold took you to, were they 14-2 or 13 and or no 14 and they were 14-3 that year, weren't they? Did Darnold win 14 games?
Yeah, they were 14-3.
I mean, I guess that's why our boy Quezzy doesn't have a job, but he got us 2 third-rounders, Pete. That's all that matters.
Which is really shitty because he didn't pick JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, so from my understanding, it was him that ultimately decided to move off of Darnold and not re-sign him. And is that what got him fired, or was there just like stuff behind the scenes that just wasn't vibing? Because like for a while there, he was pretty highly thought of, man. Minnesota had a ton of buzz.
Well, they were awful in the draft. That was that was number one. He was genuinely butchering the draft. They got nothing for basically 3 years. That was a big part of it, and obviously the JJ McCarthy pick did not help.
No.
Now, as to who is responsible for Sam Darnold leaving, I'm not sure, because here's the thing: Kevin O'Connell is the one who wanted JJ McCarthy. So if he really wanted JJ McCarthy, was he really fighting to keep Sam Darnold too? That just doesn't make sense to me. So certainly they can try to argue and say, well, this is Quezzy's choice, but like the driving force to pick McCarthy was the head coach. So it hard for me to be like say anything other than Quezzy did the thing if he's responsible for it. All he did was pave the way for the guy to get on the field that Kevin O'Connell wanted. So, and McCarthy wasn't Sam Darnold wasn't going to get if they were going to sign a long-term deal, then it basically invalidates the choice of JJ in the first place. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the way that Quezzy was fired was crap. His whole his whole paternity leave thing was just utter nonsense, especially when we look at what's going on in the NFL now with Mike Vrabel and this whole thing.
Yeah.
But like the drafts are indefensible. He was better in free agency. He made some smart trades. But the drafts were just genuinely bad. And so I don't like this. I don't think the situation was great for him in the end. And obviously, I think they basically fired him like during the draft process, which is also so. You know, the Vikings will get over it. They've got a really good image with the league and with players because their owner pours oodles of money into everything, and they've got top of the line all this stuff, so they can afford to do these type of moves. But yeah, Quezzy just terrible in the draft.
Well, either way, always a pleasure, Pete. Wonderful show. Our 2 hours is up. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We appreciate it. We appreciate the interaction. Keep it up with that. Makes this way more fun for us and hopefully better for you guys. And before we let you go, be sure to check out OBR.com. We've always got stuff going through the Ask the Insider forums. They're cranking out articles daily, all that good stuff. Pete Smith, Fred Greetham, Lane Adkins, Jack Duffin, Mike Keefe, all the guys, man. Be sure to check out OBR.com. And thank you guys again for sticking with us. We'll be back next week, and we look forward to it, boys. Have a wonderful week, guys. We'll catch you guys later. Pete, always a pleasure, brother.
Yep. Take it easy.